Was Napoleon's army truly the best in the world, or is this merely a legend born from brilliant victories and the emperor's charisma? The history of the Grande Armée is wrapped in an aura of invincibility, yet behind this myth lie weaknesses and systemic flaws. Revolutionary France provided Napoleon with enormous resources, but the real strength of his army depended on more than enthusiasm. Its peak came during the campaigns of 1805 to 1807, when Europe collapsed under the pressure of French corps. But to answer honestly whether it was truly the best, we must examine its achievements, compare them with its failures, and understand the true nature of its success. The Grande Armée was built on principles that seemed revolutionary in the early 19th century. The corps system made the army flexible and fast, allowing it to conduct operations like well-planned chess combinations. Each corps was a self-sufficient unit capable of holding the line and attacking without waiting for reinforcements. This gave Napoleon a tremendous advantage. He could concentrate his forces at decisive points faster than any opponent. Infantry marched in columns but could deploy into line within minutes. Cavalry provided speed and artillery delivered crushing power at the decisive moment. France's conscription system allowed it to raise huge armies, and its officer corps consisted of men who rose through talent rather than noble birth. This social mobility fueled motivation and attracted ambitious commanders. Other European armies watched in amazement as French columns completed marches that seemed impossible to them. The army's structure was a living mechanism in which each element reinforced the others. However, the system depended heavily on the quality of commanders, which varied greatly. A talented general could turn his corps into a hammer, an incompetent one caused the entire mechanism to fail. Still, in its early years, the system worked almost flawlessly and became a model for future armies. Napoleon's strategy relied on rapid maneuver that disrupted enemy plans, deprived them of stability, and forced hasty decisions. He turned marches into a weapon, driving his soldiers to cover distances at a pace unmatched by other armies. His favorite idea was to strike at divided enemy forces before they could unite. This was the secret behind his greatest victories. French infantry could march dozens of kilometers and appear where the enemy least expected. Before battle, Napoleon sought to seize a central position, allowing him to defeat one coalition army after another. Artillery acted as a hammer breaking enemy lines, after which cavalry delivered the final blow through pursuit. His tactical flexibility made his style of war unpredictable. However, the strategy required perfect tempo, fresh troops, and short campaigns. Once a war dragged on, the advantages disappeared. Fatigue slowed the army, and every delay turned maneuver into a gamble. Yet when everything aligned, Napoleon created operations still studied in military academies today. His army indeed looked like the best, but only under the conditions he created. Another major problem of the French army was logistics. Its supply system relied on foraging, allowing the army to live off the land. In Central Europe, this worked perfectly, but once the army moved further, the system began to collapse. Spain showed that terrain and guerrilla warfare could nullify any strategic brilliance. Russia delivered the final blow. Long supply lines, destroyed depots, lack of resources, and harsh climate exposed the army's fundamental weakness. Horses died, artillery lost mobility, and supply wagons lagged behind. Soldiers roamed in search of food, losing cohesion and combat effectiveness. The logistics crisis destroyed the concept of rapid war that underpinned all of Napoleon's victories. Not even his genius could compensate for ruined communications. Each week of the 1812 campaign turned a once mighty army into an exhausted mass. Logistics, not artillery, not cavalry, and not generals, brought down the war machine once considered the best in the world. And this weakness proved fatal. Napoleon's opponents were not always weak. In the beginning, they lagged behind France in organization, speed, and resolve. Prussia clung to traditions of Frederick the Great. Austria drowned in bureaucracy. Russia struggled to mobilize quickly, but the defeats of 1805 to 1807 forced them to reform. Prussia introduced universal conscription and a new training system. Austria restructured command and accelerated decision-making. Russia improved supply and became more flexible operationally. Britain funded and equipped its allies. Gradually, European armies began adopting French ideas. They became faster, better organized, and less prone to chaos. By 1813, the coalition learned to avoid Napoleon's traps and apply a strategy of attrition. They refused decisive battles when they favored France. They preserved their armies through retreats if that meant disrupting Napoleon's tempo. And it worked. Napoleon now faced opponents who played by his rules, and sometimes better than he did. Europe learned to think the French way. The Grande Armée left a huge mark on history, and for good reason. It was extraordinarily modern for its time, flexible, massive, and highly motivated. Its victories shocked Europe, and its tactics became classics. But no army exists outside the conditions that created it. In the early years, France had resources, ideology, and a leader willing to take bold risks. Yet logistics, economics, and human losses gradually turned the once perfect machine into a heavy system unable to operate at its peak. The Allies learned, reformed, and copied the best French practices. And once they reached a sufficient level, Napoleon's advantage vanished. So the fair conclusion is, yes, Napoleon's army was the best, but only at a specific moment, under ideal conditions, and for a short period. It was a brilliant instrument of rapid warfare, but not capable of enduring a long global struggle. And that's all from me. Don't forget to leave a like.